Imagine, just for a moment, the absolute most vulnerable physical position a human being can possibly be in.
Oh boy. I feel like I know where this is going.
Right. You are at the gynecologist.
Yep, that is definitely the one.
You are wearing that paper gown that feels like, an oversized napkin.
A very crinkly, unhelpful napkin.
Exactly. And your feet are strapped into those icy metal stirrups. You're staring up at those textured acoustic ceiling tiles, just trying to dissociate for 3 minutes.
Just wishing you were literally anywhere else.
Right. And your toddler, who you had to bring with you, by the way, because your entire domestic support system has just evaporated, is currently trying to sprint past the privacy curtain into the hallway.
It's a universally understood nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, the loss of physical autonomy combined with just the terrifying unpredictability of a 2-year-old.
But let's dial the absurdity up a notch.
Oh, please do.
Your doctor actually pauses the exam.
Wait, really? While you're on the table?
While you are still on the table, she pulls out her smartphone to buy your book on Amazon because she just found out you're a suspense novelist.
Wow, that's horrifying.
And while she's tapping in her prime shipping details, you are lying there actively trying to figure out how to casually explain that your live-in nanny, the person who usually wrestles said toddler, is currently sitting in Maryland under indefinite house arrest.
Oh my God.
Carrying a police-issued ankle monitor and, awaiting trial for a massive grand larceny.
You have this, clinical sterile environment of medical science completely colliding with the messy, high-stakes chaos of a felony criminal investigation.
Welcome to our deep dive into the wildly intricate universe of Elle Cosimano's Finlay Donovan Crosses the Line.
It is such a wild ride.
It really is. And if you are listening to this, you probably already know the chaotic brilliance of Finlay's world. You know the players. But today, we aren't just summarizing the plot.
No, we're really getting into the weeds today.
We are deconstructing the machinery beneath it. We want to understand what Finlay's absolute disaster of a life teaches us about 3 very real, very tangible things.
Right, the terrifying blind spots of the criminal justice system, for one.
Yes, and the invisible vulnerabilities in our everyday digital footprints. And finally, the dark psychological art of crisis public relations.
Because, on the surface, Finlay's story is this fast-paced comedic mystery. But underneath, Cosimano is running a rather sharp examination of how modern society actually functions.
It really is.
She is asking us to look at what happens when the digital world, our GPS trackers, our key cards, our text logs, when all of that fails to capture the actual messy truth of human behavior.
So if you've ever felt like your daily life is a juggling act, we are about to make you feel a whole lot better about your own chaos.
Oh, absolutely. You will feel so organized after this.
We are going to examine the neuroscience of making terrible decisions under pressure. We'll break down the actual real-world mechanics of GPS spoofing and Bluetooth mesh networks.
Which is fascinating, by the way.
It really is. And we'll analyze how a clever PR spin can literally force the police to drop felony charges.
Yeah?
So let's start with that pressure cooker environment Finlay is operating in.
Yeah, let's get into the biology of exhaustion. Because to understand why a mother of 2 decides to cross state lines and, interfere with an active felony investigation, you have to look at her brain.
It is the foundation of every single choice she makes. When we see Finlay in that opening scene at Dr. Wiley's office, she is experiencing, profound executive dysfunction.
Completely. Her nanny and functional co-parent, Vero, has been extradited.
Her house is a minefield.
Right.
Her ex-husband, Stephen, remains, as always, remarkably unhelpful.
Oh, classic Steve.
Right. Her literary agent is demanding pages she hasn't written. And on top of all that, she's dating Nick, who just happens to be a police detective.
A police detective who is entirely unaware that his girlfriend is actively aiding a fugitive.
It is a spectacular conflict of interest.
It really is the literal definition of a conflict of interest.
Yeah. But the real ticking clock introduced in that doctor's office is the fact that Finlay's period is late.
Yes. The ultimate stressor.
She is staring down the barrel of a potential 3rd pregnancy right at the exact moment she is trying to save her best friend from the prison system.
Which is why we have to talk about the prefrontal cortex.
Oh, please break that down for us.
So that's the part of the brain responsible for logical reasoning, long-term planning, and risk assessment. Right.
Okay, the rational part.
Exactly. But when a human being is subjected to chronic sleep deprivation and acute psychological stress like, say, a looming pregnancy, a looming deadline, and a looming prison sentence for a loved one.
The trifecta of doom.
Right. When that happens, the amygdala, which is our fear center, essentially hijacks the brain. The prefrontal cortex basically just goes offline.
So she's not even capable of making a good decision at this point.
Pretty much. When you are operating in sheer survival mode, the boundary between a logical, measured decision and a desperate, reckless gamble becomes incredibly thin.
You stop asking, is this legal? And start asking, will this solve my immediate problem within the next 5 minutes?
Exactly. And her immediate problem literally crashes into her living room at 6:45 in the morning.
Oh man, this scene, Nick, the hot cop boyfriend, has stayed over. They hear a noise downstairs. Nick actually draws his service weapon.
He's sweeping the house for an intruder.
Sweeping the house. But it's just Javi, Vero's boyfriend. He has let himself in with a spare key, and he is just frantically packing Vero's belongings.
Because Javi has been through the criminal justice system himself.
Right, he knows the stakes.
He knows exactly how a felony conviction will permanently label Vero, so he wants to convince her to jump bail and just vanish.
Javi is exhibiting the ultimate flight response here.
He really is. And to understand his panic, we have to look at the mechanics of the crime Vero is actually accused of, and more importantly, how the authorities process that crime.
Let's get into it. So a year prior, Vero was the treasurer of the Kappa Gamma sorority at the University of Maryland, a sorority that was, unbeknownst to most, secretly hosting highly lucrative, illicit poker nights.
High-stakes underground gambling in a sorority house.
Exactly. And when a backpack full of that cash vanished from Vero's room, Vero, completely panicked, dropped out of school and fled to Virginia.
And because she ran, the police, the university, the sorority sisters, they all just dusted their hands off and said, well, she ran. She must be guilty. Case closed.
Which is staggering when you actually think about it.
It's absurd.
Tens of thousands of dollars vanish, and they don't interview anyone else. They don't look at the frat boys who were gambling.
Nope.
They don't look at the wealthy sorority president, Mia, or the vice president, Ava. They just instantly pin it on the Latina scholarship student.
It is a textbook example of confirmation bias. And it's compounded by what behavioral economists call cognitive ease.
Cognitive ease. What does that mean in this context?
Well, human beings, and by extension, the bureaucratic systems we create, like police departments, we naturally gravitate toward the narrative that requires the least amount of mental effort to process.
Ah, so the lazy explanation.
Exactly. The police weren't looking for the objective truth. They were looking for a narrative that fit their preconceived societal assumptions.
The socioeconomic disparity really handed the police a perfectly wrapped package here.
Oh, absolutely.
You have a house full of young women with trust funds, connected parents, and massive social capital. They benefit from the halo effect, the assumption that because they are wealthy and presentable, they are inherently trustworthy.
Right. And Vero, on the other hand, was struggling to pay tuition. She was the outsider in that ecosystem.
So the system was just primed to cast her in the role of the desperate thief.
Exactly. When Vero engaged her flight response, which, by the way, was triggered by her completely valid fear of a system she knew would be biased against her, she inadvertently provided the exact data point the police needed to finalize their confirmation bias.
Right. Flight equals guilt in the eyes of a lazy investigation.
They anchored their entire theory of the case on her departure. They just ignored all other variables.
Okay, I understand the systemic assumptions at play here. I totally understand why the police stopped looking, and I understand why Javi wants Vero to run.
Sure.
But I have to push back on Finlay's reaction to all of this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Finlay is a mother. She hears Javi say he wants Vero to jump bail. And her solution is to tell Javi, no, wait downstairs, I'm going with you.
Yep. She invites herself along.
She literally leaves her children with her police detective boyfriend, telling him absolutely nothing, mind you, so she can cross state lines and manufacture her own shadow investigation.
It's a bold move.
We talked about executive dysfunction earlier, but this borders on a pathological detachment from reality. Isn't that just terrible decision-making?
It really is.
Yeah.
But you have to view her choices through the lens of her profession.
The suspense novelist thing.
Right. Finlay spends 8 to 10 hours a day orchestrating complex crimes, planting red herrings, and writing protagonists who routinely outsmart federal agencies.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It creates this fascinating psychological phenomenon. It's almost like an occupational hazard where she develops a false sense of investigative invincibility.
It's almost like a specialized Dunning-Kruger effect.
That's a great way to put it.
She assumes that because she can, outline a murder mystery on a whiteboard, she can execute a felony investigation in the real world.
Precisely. I mean, she plots murders before breakfast.
Uh-huh.
How hard could it be to figure out who stole a backpack from a frat party?
Right.
She views the real world through the mechanics of a narrative arc. In a novel, the protagonist always finds the clue in the nick of time, right?
The protagonist never gets pulled over for a broken taillight on the way to the climax.
Exactly. Finlay relies on this invisible narrative armor, which makes her incredibly brave, but also, a massive liability to everyone around her.
Which brings us to the actual execution of this shadow investigation. Because the Maryland police are perfectly happy with their prejudice narrative, right?
Consider it closed.
Right, so Finlay knows she can't use official channels. She is forced to go entirely rogue. But how do you run a covert investigation when your primary partner, Vero, is literally tethered to the police via a GPS ankle monitor?
This is where Cosimano forces us to look at the terrifying vulnerabilities in our everyday digital infrastructure.
Enter Cam.
Enter Cam, the teenage hacker who drives a famously conspicuous purple Lincoln Mark V.
The eggplant.
The eggplant. He provides a technological workaround that exposes exactly how fragile electronic monitoring actually is.
Okay, so Cam builds a transmitter belt to spoof the GPS signal of Vero's ankle monitor.
He does.
For anyone listening who thinks an ankle monitor is like an infallible iron shackle of justice, how does spoofing actually work in the real world?
It's a brilliant exploitation of radio frequencies. We tend to think of GPS as a camera watching us from space.
Yeah, like a satellite taking a picture.
Yeah. But it isn't. An ankle monitor is essentially a very dumb cell phone strapped to your leg.
A dumb cell phone. Okay.
It receives timing signals from multiple GPS satellites, calculates its position based on how long those signals take to arrive, a process called trilateration.
Trilateration, right.
And then it uses a standard cellular network to transmit those coordinates back to a police monitoring station.
So it's basically just constantly pinging a cell tower saying, I am here, I am here.
Exactly. Now, Cam's device doesn't hack into the police database. That would be incredibly difficult and highly traceable.
How much risk?
Right. Instead, he attacks the signal locally. He builds a software-defined radio transmitter. Cam parks his car miles away, and his setup generates a fake, stronger GPS signal that overpowers the real satellites.
Wait, so it's just drowning out the real signal?
Exactly. He feeds the ankle monitor fake coordinates, telling the device it is sitting inside Vero's mother's bedroom. The monitor just accepts the louder, fake signal as the truth.
And then it transmits that fake location back to the police.
Yeah.
So the police dashboard shows Vero pacing back and forth in her bedroom, while in reality, she's riding shotgun in Finlay's minivan, actively hunting down suspects.
It's digital sleight of hand. It's brilliant.
But the flaw in digital spoofing is that it requires absolute physical synchronization to maintain the illusion, right?
Oh, yeah. If a police officer physically knocks on the bedroom door, the entire digital house of cards just collapses.
Which highlights the recurring tension in this entire story. The flawless execution of high-tech espionage constantly being undermined by the messy, unavoidable realities of the human body.
Yes, which leads to one of the most stressful, visceral scenes in the narrative.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
To maintain the illusion that someone is physically in that bedroom, Finlay has to stay locked inside it while Vero is out investigating.
Right, because Vero's strict mother is right downstairs.
Exactly. And Finlay has been chugging coffee all morning to combat her sleep deprivation. She urgently, painfully needs to use the bathroom.
But she can't step out into the hallway. If the mother sees Finlay instead of Vero, the cover is blown.
So Finlay is trapped in physical agony, texting Vero to hurry up. And Vero, who is out playing detective, just texts her back, "Do some Kegels."
That is just hilarious. Do some Kegels.
I believe in the strength of your pelvic floor. It's comedic, but it's a brilliant juxtaposition.
It really is.
You have this advanced radio frequency manipulation on one end and basic human bladder capacity dictating the timeline on the other. You cannot out-hack human biology.
No, you cannot.
Right.
So while Finlay is doing Kegels and questioning every life choice that brought her to this moment, Vero is out tracking down their primary suspect, Theo.
Right, the frat boy.
Theo is a former campus bookie and a frat boy. Crucially, he is also the guy Vero spent the night with when the money vanished. He is her only alibi.
He's the golden ticket.
Exactly. If Theo tells the police Vero was in his bed at 3 a.m., the timeline of the theft shatters.
But Theo refuses to return her calls. And honestly, from a game theory perspective, Theo's silence is perfectly rational.
Rational. How so?
Well, testifying for Vero would mean inserting himself into an active police investigation.
Ah.
As a
Right.
campus bookie handling illicit gambling funds, inviting police scrutiny is professional suicide. He's preserving his own operational security at the cost of her freedom.
So they have to ambush him. They track him to a sports bar where he's working. And as you might expect, human diplomacy fails spectacularly.
That goes so wrong.
Theo is hostile. He hurls insults at Vero. Javi, driven by that same protective instinct we talked about earlier, throws a punch.
And a massive bar brawl breaks out. Total chaos.
But in the middle of this physical violence, Finlay pivots back to digital subterfuge. She quietly slips an Apple AirTag onto Theo's BMW.
Let's just pause here and talk about the terrifying reality of Bluetooth mesh networks.
Yes, please.
Because this is where the surveillance state becomes democratized.
Think about your own car right now, If someone slipped a tracker the size of a quarter behind your license plate or dropped it in your wheel well, how long would it take you to notice?
Days. Weeks. Most people would never know.
Finlay weaponizes that exact blind spot.
And she is utilizing one of the most powerful surveillance networks ever created in human history.
It sounds so intense when you put it like that.
But it's true. An AirTag doesn't have a GPS chip. It doesn't have a cellular connection. It just emits a secure Bluetooth signal every few minutes.
So how does it track anything?
Well, Apple has turned every single iPhone, iPad, and MacBook in the world into a passive listening node.
Wow.
When Theo drives down the street, the AirTag pings the iPhone of a pedestrian walking their dog. It pings the iPad of a guy sitting at a bus stop.
Just random
It's
strangers.
just random strangers. Those strangers' devices detect the AirTag's location and silently, securely relay that data back to Finlay's phone.
So Theo is being tracked by thousands of unwitting accomplices who have no idea their phones are acting as Finlay's personal surveillance grid.
Exactly. It is brilliantly effective.
But it leads to a horrifying discovery. The next day, Finlay and Vero are watching the little blue dot on the map.
It leaves Theo's house.
It heads toward Fraternity Row, then it moves to a desolate industrial park,
And
then the blue dot drives straight off an access road and directly into the Anacostia River. The signal just vanishes under the water.
this is the moment the genre of their reality violently shifts.
Right, they thought they were investigating a simple larceny, a missing backpack.
Suddenly, they are watching the digital footprint of a homicide cover-up.
They assume whoever stole the money has murdered Theo to silence him, and his body is now sinking to the bottom of a river in a BMW.
It completely shatters their operational framework. It's like trying to fix a leaky bucket with a shotgun.
Yes, that is the perfect analogy for amateur sleuthing. Every time they pull the trigger, the collateral damage gets exponentially worse.
They blast a hole trying to find their alibi, and they start a bar brawl.
They blast a hole trying to track a suspect, and they accidentally become accessories to a homicide investigation.
And meanwhile, because Vero fell in a pool at one point, the spoofed ankle monitor keeps glitching.
Right, which is drawing the attention of Officer Oates from the Maryland Police.
They aren't just making new holes, they are hitting innocent bystanders and drawing the exact authorities they are trying to evade. They create a larger wake of chaos than the original criminal ever did.
Because they lack the institutional guardrails of actual law enforcement.
Precisely. The entire narrative engine of their investigation relies on manipulating modern surveillance.
Think about it. In the classic Agatha Christie mysteries of the 20th century, an alibi was based on human testimony.
Right, the bartender who saw you, the maid who heard the clock strike.
But today, your alibi or your guilt is entirely algorithmic. The digital footprints we leave behind tell a story that is often trusted far more than human memory.
And Finlay and Vero recognize that to beat the system, they have to manipulate the digital narrative. They have to become ghosts in the machine.
But the machine is closing in. With Theo presumed dead at the bottom of a river and the police getting suspicious about Vero's location data, they have to pivot.
The external hunt has failed.
Right, they have to look inward at the closed ecosystem of the sorority itself. If the police won't look at the wealthy girls inside the house, Finlay and Vero will.
They need to establish a timeline of movement within the sorority house on the night the money vanished.
And to do that, they have to breach the house's internal digital security. They bring Cam the hacker back into play.
Good old Cam.
Vero's little sister in the sorority, Zoe, who is incredibly sweet and fiercely loyal, sneaks Cam into the house director's office.
The director, Celeste, is essentially the warden of this micro-society.
Exactly. So Cam accesses Celeste's computer and pulls up the electronic keycard logs.
Let's look at how RFID access control systems work, because it's relevant here.
Please do.
These systems are designed to create an infallible chain of custody. Every time a student taps their plastic card to a door reader, a tiny microchip sends a unique identifier via radio frequency.
And the central database logs it.
Exactly. It logged the user ID, the specific door, and the exact timestamp. It is supposed to completely eliminate human error.
So Cam pulls those logs and they find a massive anomaly.
A huge red flag.
The digital footprint shows that Ava, the vice president of the sorority, used her key card to enter the building at 2:58 a.m. on the night of the theft.
Which is a glaring contradiction, because human testimony, Ava's own statement, placed her at the fraternity party all night.
The digital record clashes with the human narrative, so Finlay and Vero decide to ambush Ava.
And Ava cracks.
She does. She admits that the digital log is accurate in its timestamp, but inaccurate in its human attribution. She wasn't the one holding the card.
She had loaned her key card to Mia, the sorority president.
Which is a severe violation of the closed system's rules, but it explains the anomaly.
The question then becomes, why did the president of the sorority need to sneak back into her own house under another girl's identity?
Right. To find out, Finlay and Vero crash a wildly chaotic off-campus frat party to corner Mia.
And Mia drops a bombshell that recontextualizes the entire night.
Mia reveals that she wasn't sneaking around to steal the money. She was furious. Earlier that night, she got into a massive screaming match with her fiancé, Bennett.
Ah, Bennett.
Bennett is an older frat brother who has since graduated and become a high-powered, incredibly slick public relations fixer.
He's the guy who fixes problems.
Yeah.
And Bennett wanted to take the illicit poker cash out of Vero's room and hoard it at his own fraternity house.
He recognized the vulnerability of keeping capital in a loosely guarded sorority room.
Right. He wanted to centralize control of the funds. Classic power move.
But Mia refused. She didn't trust his frat brothers. She stormed out of the party, borrowed Ava's key card so her entry wouldn't be flagged, and got a ride home with Theo.
The bookie. The guy whose car is currently at the bottom of the river.
So now the suspect pool has fractured entirely.
We have multiple actors with motive, means, and opportunity.
Bennett wanted the money for the fraternity. Theo was physically present at the sorority house at the exact time of the theft.
It's a mess.
But here is where the story pulls the rug completely out from under us. Finlay and Vero are standing there, parsing the timelines.
Trying to make the puzzle pieces fit.
If Mia didn't physically take the money, and Vero obviously didn't take it, and Bennett was stuck at the frat party, who actually walked into Vero's room, picked up a backpack full of tens of thousands of dollars, and removed it from the premises.
The answer lies with the one person who has been risking her own safety to help them the entire time.
Zoe. The sweet, innocent, loyal little sister.
Zoe.
Zoe breaks down, sobbing, and confesses everything.
A really emotional reveal.
The morning after the party, the police showed up on campus because an angry parent called to report the underground gambling ring. Celeste, the house director, went into full panic mode.
She started tossing the girls' rooms to find the cash before the cops could.
Zoe, driven by a profound instinct to protect her mentor, realized that if Celeste found the backpack in Vero's room, Vero would be expelled, arrested, and her scholarship revoked.
So Zoe sneaks into Vero's room.
She grabs the backpack full of illicit, mob-level cash, and she throws it out the second-story window into the bushes.
She believed she was disposing of the immediate threat.
I have to pause here, because when you encounter this moment in the narrative, the urge to scream at the text is overwhelming.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
Zoe takes a bag of cash, throws it out a window onto a busy college campus, and just assumes it will be fine.
She literally thinks she can just wander out later that afternoon and pick it up like a misplaced cardigan.
It is a level of naivete that borders on pathological.
It is staggering, I agree. But it is also one of the most brilliant illustrations of the law of unintended consequences in modern fiction.
I'll break that down for us.
In criminology and sociology, we see this constantly. An intervention designed to solve a problem ends up creating a much larger, more devastating problem because the actor failed to consider second-order effects.
So trying to fix something but making it infinitely worse.
Exactly. Think of the historical Cobra effect in India under British rule.
Right, I've heard of this. The government offered a bounty for dead cobras to reduce the snake population.
Yes, so people started breeding cobras just to get the bounty.
Because of course they did.
And when the government realized this and canceled the program, the breeders released all the snakes, making the wild cobra problem way worse than before.
Zoe is the Cobra effect in action.
Exactly. Zoe's protective instinct weaponized the situation against Vero. In Zoe's mind, the environment inside the room was hostile, so she removed the asset.
But she failed to account for the environment outside the window.
Right. By throwing the money out, she removed it from a secure, controlled environment and placed it in the chaotic public domain. She turned a localized panic move into a premeditated crime of opportunity for whoever happened to be standing below that window.
She thought she was saving Vero, but she literally handed the money to the thieves and generated the exact crisis that ruined Vero's life.
It is deeply tragic. But analytically, it gives Finlay and Vero the final puzzle piece.
Because, thanks to the digital keycard logs and the human testimony, they know exactly who was parked outside the house at that specific hour.
Jackson, Ava's cousin.
He had just dropped Ava off at the house and was idling in his car out front when the backpack fell from the sky.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Which catapults us directly into the climax. Armed with the knowledge that Jackson caught the bag, Finlay connects the dots.
She knows Jackson runs a commercial print shop in Maryland.
And where is that print shop located? In the exact same desolate industrial complex where they tracked Theo's AirTag right before the signal vanished.
The geography finally aligns. The pieces fit.
So Finlay and Vero go full tactical mode. They infiltrate Jackson's commercial print shop in the dead of night.
They break in, fully expecting to find a murder scene, or at the very least, a stash of stolen cash.
But what they find is exponentially more sophisticated. It is an active money laundering operation. Literally.
They find Jackson, Bennett the PR fixer, and Theo.
Theo! He isn't dead at the bottom of the Anacostia River.
He is very much alive.
He simply drove his car into the river to destroy the digital trackers and fake his own disappearance.
Right, because the police were closing in, and the furious parents of the frat boys who lost money were sending him death threats. He needed to become a ghost.
But the real revelation is what the three of them are doing inside the shop. They aren't just hiding the money, they are washing it.
They are taking stacks of ordinary $1 bills, physically bleaching the ink off of them, and using Jackson's high-end commercial printers to reprint them as higher denominations.
50s and hundreds. They are scrubbing the stolen poker cash to make it completely untraceable.
It is a shockingly authentic counterfeiting methodology, usually reserved for organized cartels, not recent college graduates.
Let's break down the chemistry and mechanics of why this works, because this blew my mind.
Oh, it's fascinating. So United States currency is not printed on paper.
Right.
It is printed on a specialized substrate that is roughly 75% cotton and 25% linen.
Which is why a dollar bill can survive a trip through your washing machine and your jeans pocket without disintegrating.
Precisely. The fabric blend makes it incredibly durable. Counterfeiters know that the hardest part of faking U.S. currency is replicating the exact feel of that cotton linen blend.
Because if you print a $100 bill on standard printer paper, a bank teller will know it's fake the second they touch it. It feels wrong.
Exactly. So instead of trying to source the tightly controlled paper, criminals take legitimate $1 bills and strip them.
They use industrial degreasers and bleach to literally erase George Washington.
They strip the low-denomination ink off, leaving a blank canvas of authentic, government-issued treasury paper.
Wow.
Then, they load those blank sheets into high-end inkjet or commercial laser printers and reprint the designs of higher denominations over them.
So when they pass the bills at a casino or a busy bar, the cashier touches the bill and it feels completely real because the paper is real.
Yep. And because it's real paper, it passes the counterfeit pen test.
Those iodine pens cashiers use?
Exactly. Those pens only react to starch in standard wood pulp paper. Because there's no starch in the cotton linen blend, the pen marks it as legitimate.
It's brilliant. Although it is worth noting that modern higher denominations have security threads and watermarks built into the paper that a $1 bill doesn't have, right?
Correct. If you hold a washed bill up to the light, you won't see Benjamin Franklin's watermark. You might see George Washington's shadow.
Which means they have to pass the bills quickly, in low-light environments, or to people who aren't paying close attention.
But as a short-term strategy to liquidate stolen cash, it is highly effective.
So Finlay and Vero are standing in the middle of this federal crime, and the confrontation goes south instantly.
Jackson catches them.
Vero, who's already a wanted fugitive, ends up wrestled to the ground and handcuffed to a pipe on the floor of the print shop.
The boys have the physical advantage. They outnumber the women.
And this is where Bennett, the public relations mastermind, steps into the spotlight.
He doesn't yell. He doesn't pull a gun. He offers a chillingly calm, terrifyingly calculated deal.
He leverages their own vulnerabilities against them. It is an exercise in mutual assured destruction.
He looks at Finlay and says, "Here are your options. Walk away right now. Say absolutely nothing about the bleaching operation or the stolen money.
And in return, we won't call the police and tell them that a famous author and a wanted fugitive just broke into our commercial property in the middle of the night."
Bennett understands leverage. He knows Vero has an active warrant. He knows Finlay's presence makes her an accessory to burglary, espionage, and harboring a fugitive.
If the police arrive, everyone goes to jail.
But Finlay and Vero have more to lose. They have children, careers, and an existing police dragnet hunting them. Bennett essentially forces a ceasefire through the threat of catastrophic collateral damage.
They have no choice. They take the deal.
They do.
Finlay has to leave Vero handcuffed to the pipe while Jackson unlocks her, and they retreat from the print shop. But the night is rapidly descending into total catastrophe.
Because remember, Vero's spoofed ankle monitor.
Right. During the frat party earlier that night, Vero accidentally tumbled into a swimming pool.
The water short-circuited Cam's transmitter belt.
The spoofing failed.
The digital illusion shattered, and the physical reality reasserted itself. The Maryland police finally received her true GPS coordinates.
Which means Officer Oates, the absolute bane of their existence, tracks them down. As they retreat to the sorority house to regroup, Officer Oates is waiting.
He arrests Vero on the spot.
He puts her in handcuffs, marches her to his police cruiser, and locks her in the back seat. And Finlay, watching from the shadows, realizes that if Vero goes to the precinct tonight, the boys at the print shop get away with everything.
And Vero goes to prison for a crime she didn't commit.
This is the absolute breaking point. This is the moment where the fiction writer completely surrenders to her own narrative logic.
Finlay notices something absurd. Officer Oates, in his haste to secure the perimeter, left the police cruiser running.
The engine is on, and the doors are unlocked.
So Finlay doesn't even have to hotwire it.
She just walks up, opens the driver's side door, gets in, and casually drives the police cruiser away with Vero locked in the back.
She transitions from accessory and trespasser to committing grand theft auto of a law enforcement vehicle, actively aiding a fugitive's escape from police custody.
From a legal standpoint, she has crossed the event horizon. There is no plausible deniability left.
It is the point of absolute no return.
But they don't get far. You cannot outrun a coordinated police radio network. The Maryland police swarm them.
Officer Oates corners the stolen cruiser in a concrete parking garage. The lights are flashing, weapons are drawn.
Finlay and Vero are caught red-handed. They are facing decades in federal prison. And then, out of the shadows of the parking garage, steps Bennett.
The antagonist arrives to save the day.
But we must be very clear, he is not acting out of altruism.
Oh, not at all. He is acting purely to protect his own assets.
If Finlay and Vero go down, they will undoubtedly testify about the money laundering operation at the print shop to cut a plea deal. Bennett cannot allow them to be interrogated.
So Bennett steps between Finlay, who is trembling at the stolen police car, and the furious Officer Oates.
And Bennett delivers a PR spin that is so audacious, so brilliantly sociopathic, that I found myself in awe of the mechanics of it.
It is a masterclass in crisis communications and narrative reframing. Let's break down exactly how he dissects the police officer's reality.
Bennett pulls a sleek business card from his jacket. He introduces himself not as a frat boy, but as an account manager for a high-profile, aggressive crisis PR firm.
And he establishes a baseline of undeniable facts.
He says to Officer Oates, "Look at the reality of tonight's situation. An hour ago, there was a credible bomb threat called in at the fraternity house down the street."
Which is technically true. Cam the hacker called it in to create a distraction for them earlier.
Bennett continues, "During that chaos, you left your primary law enforcement vehicle unattended. The engine was running, the door was ajar, and securely locked inside the back of that vulnerable vehicle was a falsely accused woman."
Notice what he does here. He uses the objective data points, the bomb threat, the running car, the handcuffed woman, but he completely strips them of their chronological context and criminal intent.
Right.
He creates a new, incredibly embarrassing narrative anchor for the police officer: negligence in the face of danger.
Then he delivers the kill shot. He points directly at Finlay and says, "This woman did not steal your police vehicle. This woman is a good Samaritan."
A good Samaritan.
She saw an innocent, helpless citizen trapped in a running vehicle dangerously close to an active bomb threat. When law enforcement failed to protect that citizen, Finlay Donovan heroically jumped into action, risking her own life, to move the police cruiser a safe distance away from the blast zone.
It is breathtaking. He doesn't just deny the crime, he inverts it into an act of profound civic heroism.
And he twists the knife. He looks at Officer Oates and says, Finlay Donovan is a famous, widely read suspense author. If you arrest her tonight for saving a falsely accused minority woman from a bomb threat that your department failed to manage, I will take this underdog hero narrative to every local news station, every blog, in every morning show in the state by 6 a.m.
I will frame your department as incompetent and vindictive.
I will turn this into a PR nightmare so catastrophic that it will cost you your badge, your pension, and the chief's job.
He completely weaponizes the modern media landscape. This is how high-level scandals are negotiated in the real world.
That's terrifying.
He understands that institutions like police departments are inherently risk-averse. They care about their public image, their funding, and their political capital.
Bennett makes the institutional cost of pursuing the objective truth simply too expensive. He essentially blackmails law enforcement with the threat of viral outrage.
Bennett is undeniably the villain here. He orchestrated the theft. He is laundering mob money, but his understanding of how the court of public opinion can paralyze the court of law is terrifyingly accurate.
He alters the lens through which the evidence is viewed, and it completely paralyzes the police.
And it works. Officer Oates, faced with the prospect of becoming the villain in a national news cycle about police incompetence, makes the bureaucratic calculation. He backs down.
He drops the charges. He tells them to get out of his sight. They let Finlay and Vero walk away.
Which brings us to the aftermath of this completely unhinged night.
The dust settles, and we get to see how the loose ends are tied up, though certainly not in the way a traditional courtroom would prefer.
The resolution happens outside the official justice system, governed by leverage rather than law.
Exactly. Back at the sororities, Zoe, Mia, and Ava finally come clean to the house director. The angry parents of the freshman pledge who originally lost the money at the poker game are quietly paid back using the recovered cash from the print shop.
But Bennett doesn't just hand the money over. He forces those parents to sign an ironclad non-disclosure agreement.
He buys their silence, holding on to the fact that he has security footage of their son vandalizing Vero's mother's house in retaliation.
It is dirty, backroom dealing,
Yeah.
but it is brutally effective. Vero's larceny charges are officially, permanently dropped by the university and the police. She is a free woman.
The external threat is neutralized, which allows Finlay and Vero to cross back over the state line, returning home to Virginia.
And the transition from criminal chaos back to domestic chaos is immediate.
It's one of the funniest moments in the book. They walk through the front door, having just survived an international-level counterfeiting ring, a hostage situation, and stealing a police car.
They are running on adrenaline and trauma.
And they find Nick, the tough, seasoned police detective, in a state of absolute frantic panic in the living room.
Why? Because Finlay's toddler, Zach, has managed to steal a crucial piece of physical evidence that Nick brought home from work, and the toddler has hidden it somewhere in the house.
Nick is terrified his career is over because he was outsmarted by a 2-year-old.
It grounds the narrative beautifully. It reminds you that while Finlay may have survived the criminal underworld, the relentless, unpredictable demands of motherhood remain entirely undefeated.
The domestic environment requires just as much tactical maneuvering as the print shop did.
And amidst that domestic chaos, there is one final, intensely personal loose end to tie up.
The ticking clock from the very first scene in the gynecologist's office. The pregnancy scare.
Finlay and Vero slip upstairs to the bathroom. Finlay finally takes the test. They sit on the edge of the tub, waiting for the lines to appear.
And the result is negative.
It's negative.
And the wave of overwhelming relief that washes over Finlay is profound. It cements the central realization of her character arc.
Her life, with her demanding kids, her stressful writing deadlines, her complicated romantic life, and her criminal-adjacent best friend, is already filled to the absolute brim.
It is a messy, chaotic, beautiful disaster. She does not need to add a newborn infant to the mix to make her life meaningful or complete. The relief is her accepting her baseline chaos.
It brings her full circle. She crossed the line into a world of absolute lawlessness, only to realize that her own messy reality was exactly where she belonged.
So, as we wrap up this custom deep dive, let's connect all of this back to you, the listener, because the core takeaway from Finlay Donovan Crosses the Line isn't a tutorial on how to spoof an ankle monitor or the chemical process of bleaching a dollar bill.
It is a stark reminder of how fragile the concept of truth actually is.
We rely on systems to define reality for us. We trust the police report, the GPS log, the keycard timestamp.
But the truth is almost always obscured by human fallibility.
It is obscured by well-meaning but disastrous protective instincts, like Zoe throwing the money out the window.
It is deeply obscured by systemic assumptions, where institutions take the path of least cognitive resistance to blame the most vulnerable person in the room.
And as we saw with Bennett, truth can be entirely overwritten by a carefully crafted, aggressively deployed public relations narrative.
We all like to think we see the world clearly. We want life to be like a clean medical x-ray, broken or not broken, guilty or innocent.
But the reality is that the X-ray machine is often manipulated by whoever is operating it. So I want to leave you with a final, somewhat unsettling thought.
Something to mull over while you're commuting tomorrow or making dinner tonight.
Look at the micro-societies in your own life. Think about your neighborhood association, your PTA, your office, your extended social circle.
If a backpack full of illicit cash vanished from the break room tomorrow, how quickly would the group consensus decide who was guilty?
Would they look at the evidence, or would they immediately point the finger based purely on someone's background, their income, or their social standing?
How fast would the narrative anchor itself to the easiest scapegoat?
And more importantly, if you suddenly found yourself holding the bag and you had exactly 10 minutes to spin a felony into a heroic act of civic duty before the police arrived, could you do it?
It ultimately comes down to a question of narrative power. Who holds the pen in your own story?
Are you the one writing the plot, or are you just a character trapped in someone else's spin? Something to think about.